Hi everyone, my name is Trent Lupo, and today I am going to be doing a presentation on Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven was born on or around December 16th, 1770. He was baptized on December 17th, so in Germany, where he was born, it could be possible he was born on December 16th because they did baptisms within 24 hours after they were born. So again, could be possible. So he was born in Bonn, which was the capital at the time of Western Germany. So he was named after his paternal grandfather, who was named as Ludwig van Beethoven the Elder. He was also named after his eldest sister, Ludwig Maria, who died at infancy. Ludwig was the second oldest of 7 children to Maria Magdalena Keverich and Johann van Beethoven. Only Ludwig and his 2 younger brothers survived infancy. He was nicknamed the Spaniard because he had dark skin and dark hair. He was an average height of 5'4" and was considered as the greatest composer of all time. He was also considered a socially introvert and did not like to interact with other people, including the audience, friends, and so forth. Yeah, but Ludwig was one of the greatest composers of all time, so yeah, it was something else. So Beethoven's father was a musician who gave Ludwig his first music lessons as an adolescent. Okay, and he was also an alcoholic who was very hostile and violent towards his family, especially to his son. And he gave out corporal punishment to Ludwig. And Beethoven made his debut on March 26, 1778 at Electorate of Cologne. So he was 8 years old, and his father lied to the public and said he was 6. Well, that's not true. He was 8, and my father made it seem like, oh, my son is 6. It may seem like he's younger, so he'll be more smarter. Guess that's the way. And father could not provide for the family, so Ludwig had to quit school at 11 years old to help provide for his family, since his mother was dying and his dad was an alcoholic. So he was known as the parentified child to his younger brothers. Okay, and his mother died when Ludwig was 17 from tuberculosis. So. Alright, so the mother and son relationship that Ludwig had, he and his mother had a very loving relationship, so he described her as his best friend. She died when Ludwig was 17 from tuberculosis, and it was very difficult for him since his father was abusive towards him and was very hostile towards the family, and he had to become the parentified child to his 2 younger brothers. And later on in his life, he eventually gained guardianship of his 4-year-old nephew Karl when his middle brother Caspar committed suicide, and his sister-in-law did not like Ludwig being the guardianship of her son Karl. So Beethoven's father was his first music teacher as an adolescent. He was like 3-4 years old, and his father wanted him especially to follow the footsteps of Mozart. Very, very complicated to ask a young child to do that. But each time Beethoven would make a mistake, his father Johann would use corporal punishment and would assault him every time he would make a mistake. So Beethoven's father was a full-blown alcoholic. He would usually come back from late nights at the bar, and he was so drunk he would wake young Ludwig up. He was half asleep, by the way. This young child, to give music lessons, practice constantly, and like I said, each mistake that was made, he would use that he would just use corporal punishment, because just to get through his son, and this haunted him through live performances as a child and adult, even after his father died, because he was like, my father's on my deathbed. My father's in my graveyard, in the graveyard, saying, "You gotta do this right, son. You gotta do this right." And that's why his Ludwig was always about perfection. Was about perfection. So, as he got older, Ludwig, negative traits appeared. Such as alcoholism, because alcoholism was a very, very much a factor on Ludwig, and especially as he got older, and he abused alcoholism to the point where he was much more important than composing and not doing shows anymore. And alcoholism was essentially what killed him, sadly. So, Beethoven first published his composition at 13 years old, which was 3 piano sonatas. It's also called WOO 47, which was known as Beethoven's earliest work. He was constantly performing for the public and was under pressure about doing everything perfect. His famous pieces included Symphony No. 5 and Ode to Joy. They were composed in the years between 1808 and 1824. Beethoven was a full-blown alcoholic to the point where he used to blow off performances. He became deaf at the age of 25, but became fully deaf at the age of 46 to the point he was unable to give live performances. So before he became fully deaf, Beethoven was still composing and giving out live performances, but when he became 100% deaf, he was no longer to be giving live performances, but he still composed music until the year of his death. But sadly, he couldn't hear. So, for Ode to Joy, because Ode to Joy was composed during that time frame of him being, fully deaf, he didn't know what he was composing. So that was like a posthumous release of Ode to Joy. So, and Beethoven just didn't know it. He did not even know what he was composing. So, one of my favorite quotes from Beethoven is, "Music is like a dream, one that I cannot hear." So, this quote is meaningful because Beethoven's passion was music. This is at the point of his life where he couldn't hear what he was composing. He had no idea. And this is powerful to people who are struggling with illnesses and no longer can do certain tasks. And he said that quote because, like I said, he didn't even know what he was composing. He composed Ode to Joy when he was fully deaf. He had no idea. He had no idea what he was composing, but he never gave up. He couldn't perform to the public anymore, but he just never gave up. Beethoven was never married, but had many partnerships throughout his life. They were very, unstable, his partnerships, so they were unsuccessful, and he did not have any children, but there were theories that said he fathered a lot of children through many of his partnerships, but he did not have children of his own. His career started to fail as his hearing got worse and ailments started to progress. And he also had an emotional breakdown where he, had to really wanted to please people, and people didn't do what he said. It was a whole big thing in Beethoven's eyes that if people weren't applauding for him, he would get upset, disappointed, agitated. It was just all in Beethoven's head. He wanted to do everything right. Yet, if people weren't clapping for him, he would just quit the show, quit live performances for the night. And he was also very structured in routines, so per se his manager didn't contact him. He would just blow off the show for the night, and would never hear from his, never respond to his manager. That's who Beethoven was. Beethoven liked structure, and he really wanted everything his way, not his manager's way. So, that being said, Beethoven had attempted suicide once when he was in his 30s. This stemmed from his health, his ongoing health, his hearing loss. He wrote this letter called the Heiligenstadt Testament. So this is the Heiligenstadt Testament was a letter to his brothers, explaining what he was going through, such as the suicide attempt, his sudden hearing loss. But he did not mention anything about his depression. So that was pretty clueless for his brothers. Yet his middle brother, died attempted suicide years later when he became the guardianship of his son. So, yeah, Beethoven, like I said, composed a lot of his music for many years throughout his illness, and he composed the year he died, and he was in a 2-day coma. But on the day he died, there was thunder and flashes of lightning, and it was like a military of army salute, and it just woke Beethoven up suddenly, briefly though, because he was in the coma for a couple days. And something about that noise just woke Beethoven up briefly, and he just fell back to sleep and died. He died on March 26, 1827, at the age of 56. So back then, this is the 19th century, 56 was considered on the older side. But now, the 21st century, it's considered pretty young. So to compare that age, you look to see how long Beethoven lived. It's pretty young compared to pretty old compared to the life expectancy today. So, Ludwig von Beethoven followed the path to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. What is borderline personality disorder, and what is the cause? So, borderline personality disorder is a pattern of emotional unstableness, and the cause is based on the person's symptoms. So what I have on here are the signs of borderline personality disorder, which is the fear of abandonment, unstable relationships, unstable sense of identity, impulsivity, self-destructive behavior, self-harm, extreme mood swings, feelings of emptiness, explosive anger, and paranoia or psychosis. Beethoven had all of these symptoms. His fear of abandonment happened when he fell in love with multiple women and they suddenly left him. This is similar to him having unstable relationships with these women. These were just unsuccessful, and of course he wanted to marry them, but like I said, they were just unsuccessful, and he couldn't. And they just couldn't make it. He just couldn't make it work. So his unstable sense of identity plays along when him being very critical of himself while performing for the public. This just stems from him being sexually abused as a child from his father, because his father was very hard on him, And that being said, was just triggered throughout his music career, throughout his career in music. Excuse me. And so I categorize the next three. So the impulsivity, self-destructive behavior, and self-harm targets primarily around suicide attempts and alcoholism, especially the self-harm. So the impulsivity is more so about quitting the shows because people aren't paying attention to him. He wants entertainment, so he's not getting it. It's a whole range of things with the impulsivity and refusing to perform because his manager said, no, you're not performing on this day, or you're not performing certain times, so I'm not performing at all. The impulsivity does stem from suicide because, like, when things don't go his way, he's feeling down on himself, he'll attempt suicide to feel better about himself, and that plays along with self-destructive behavior, and that's practically harming yourself when you're attempting suicide and drinking alcohol. That's really harming yourself and destructing your behavior. It's destructing a behavior that you once had as a child that you don't have anymore because you're trying to harm yourself and drinking yourself to death. The extreme mood swings comes from being happy and sad all the time because Beethoven dealt with manic depression as well as bipolar disorder. So that really does stem from it all, because he was happy one day, willing to perform, and the sadness just comes from depressed, not feeling good about himself, attempting suicide, not wanting to perform for the public. He also had empty feelings, so that this categorizes the abandonment of falling in love and being lonesome. The guardianship of his nephew was shortened. His sister-in-law didn't like the uncle being the guardian of the nephew. That was a whole big thing. And he also had explosive anger that stemmed from his father being so hard on him as a child, but also being perfect in music. He also had alcohol that really stemmed the anger on Beethoven. So it's pretty much why anger really got in the way with his music, and alcoholism had a major effect to it as well. So he also had paranoia and psychosis, which stems from his childhood where his father was very abusive towards him, such as being very hard on him with practicing the piano, and waking him up in the wee hours of the night just to practice, and father yelling at him for making a mistake, using corporal punishment. So the DSM-5 diagnosis, as I said, the symptoms are his symptoms of the borderline personality disorder of the mental, physical, and sexual abuse from his father as a child, as well as not make it work with multiple women, and losing guardianship of his nephew. His impulsivity ranging from last minute quitting shows because he wanted attention from the audience, and refusing to perform because he did not have a time slot. the impulsivity also was related to alcohol because he drank himself to death. He died from cirrhosis of the liver amongst other illnesses. He tried to kill himself at one point and wrote that letter to his brothers for a cry to help. Beethoven was also emotionally unstable, especially during his live performances, because, like I said, he wanted attention from the audience and wasn't getting it, so it would make him upset. Make him upset that the audience was not paying attention to Beethoven, and that they thought, and Beethoven immediately thought, why me? Why aren't they paying attention to me? I performed graciously for them. And who knows who knows, it could have been a matter of him being deaf. That could have been the reason, because he couldn't hear at that time. So it was very hard for Beethoven to go through all these emotions. So Ludwig von Beethoven could be diagnosed with substance abuse disorder, which is commonly known as substance use disorder, or SUD, which is caused by many factors such as genetic vulnerability, environmental stressors, social pressures, individual personality characteristics, and psychiatric problems. These symptoms include consuming the substance regularly, spending a large portion of your time, craving the substance, needing more of the substance to get the same effect, withdrawal while stopping the substance, unable to meet the obligations, recurring thoughts of quitting but not successfully, continuing to use it even though it causes issues in relationships and health issues, giving up or cutting back on social activities due to the use, and using it as an unsafe matter. Beethoven's issue was that he used alcohol often and spent a large portion of his time using alcohol and never met the obligations of his career. His alcohol was becoming a larger portion of his time, and unfortunately he would continue to use it even though it caused major health issues, and it eventually killed him. He had no instance whatsoever to stop the alcohol, because he became so addicted to the point where he was craving it during the day. He abused alcohol as a type of as wine. So yeah, it was pretty hard on Beethoven. And Beethoven was from a family of alcoholics, so it was much more difficult for him. So his symptoms, like I said, followed the criteria for substance use disorder. So his substance abuse, which was alcoholism, resulted in a decline of obligations such as composing his music. His tolerance had increased throughout his life. The more he drank, he had no desire of quitting. So he would drink. He would drink throughout the day and forget what he was doing, such as composing music, because alcohol, like I said, alcohol was the main point of his life. It's like being married, or being in a job. Your job's the most important thing of your life. Alcohol was, and he would miss obligations such as concerts and live performances due to his alcoholism, because he was heavily addicted. He also would crave alcohol during the day, which became a daily routine. I'm not sure if he drank morning, afternoon, night, but he did drink a lot, and that's what ultimately killed him for the cirrhosis of the liver. So this criteria is definitely used for alcoholism, is definitely used for substance use disorder without a doubt, because of the alcoholism and and which led to death, unfortunately. Thank you.